And now, the moment that we have all been waiting for. Kevin and Sam Sorbo are perhaps best known as actors. However, their true faith in Christ and their conservative Christian views have put them at odds with liberal Hollywood. Like Hercules, they're standing strong for what's good and what's right. They believe that the stories in their faith-based films can move and even change the culture of our nation. Their Sorbo Family Film Studios is working to do just that.
Along with acting, Kevin Sorbo is an author, film director, and producer. He's appeared on the highly rated podcast Self-Evident and has had starring roles in 2 television series and played leading roles in the Christian drama films God's Not Dead, What If, and Let There Be Light. He's an avid golfer, Mr. Hole-in-One, he'll explain. Look for Kevin in several projects in the weeks and months ahead, including Speed Shift, a car racing movie, and Final Invasion, a sci-fi thriller. 2 documentaries are also in the works: Search for the Ark of the Tabernacle and Eating with the Enemy, about the Last Supper.
In addition to acting, Sam Sorbo is an author, filmmaker, radio host, and advocate for education freedom. Her book, They're Your Kids, chronicles her family's experience with homeschooling. Sam's underground education provides insights into education through the lens of family, faith, and freedom. She studied biomedical engineering at Duke University and speaks 5 languages. She and Kevin have co-authored a couple of books, and they will be signing copies at their information table. Also, get your passports ready because Sam and Kevin are actually hosting a trip to Israel in May 2023.
We are delighted to have Kevin and Sam join us tonight, and we are very excited to hear from each of them. Please join me in giving them a round of applause.
Well, it's age before beauty, so you're going to get her last, okay? So if you don't know me, I got to let you know that Hollywood loves me. They love me so much that about 10 years ago, my manager and agent, who I was with for many, many years, one of the biggest agents in the country, ICM, called me in to say that they couldn't work with me anymore because of the things I was posting that had Christian and conservative viewpoints. And I looked at him and I said, so I feel like I'm the first, really, before cancel culture was a term, I'm the first guy to really have it happen to me within Hollywood. And I laughed and I said, you're the guys who scream for tolerance and freedom of speech, but as you know, it's a one-way street and the hypocrisy bleeds through, but they don't even care that they're hypocrites, and you know it. You see it in politics every single day, but here we are. Amazing what you guys do. God bless you, what IFI does. I mean, seriously, we need you in every state, or most every state across the country. We really do, because it's incredible to fight this fight. I'll pretend like I'm in an AA meeting and say, I'm Kevin Sorbo and I'm a Minnesota Viking fan. I'm sorry. So I was born and raised in Minnesota. I'm still a Viking fan, and what can I say? Brian Urlacher is a dear friend of mine, for you guys who know the Bear. I mean, he's a very good golf buddy of mine. But I left the state because, quite frankly, I don't like winters up here. And I am a defective from a blue state. We now live in Florida. We left 4 years ago. We left the worst governor in the country for the best governor in the country, and Governor DeSantis. And Sam and I have been honored to have many meetings with him and President Trump and Pompeo and many a list of people, so it's been wonderful for us. Usually when I start speaking, I do a lot of pro-life speaking, so God bless what you guys do there, okay? Because I am a pro-lifer. Pro-choice is not a choice. It's murder or life. It's not a choice. And as I'd like to say when they say it's my body, my choice, no, if it was your body, you would be dead too. So it's true. Anyway, I usually, they beat me to the punch. I ask all our vets and our police officers, please stand up and recognize that you've already done that. So God bless what you do. My hero is my kid brother, Lieutenant Colonel Scott Sorbo, 23 years in the U.S. Army. And I want to say that our military is one of the best representations of Christ in our society today. John 15:13 says this, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. So God bless what you guys do to keep us safe. Now, can you imagine if God was woke? Right? Suppose like today's wokies, God was unforgiving, judgmental, quick to cancel, bent on destroying your reputation, your family, your whole livelihood. Imagine an all-powerful wokie with no compassion, no understanding, no grace, none whatsoever. Well, thank God, God is not woke. Instead of being a being ready to cancel, ready to condemn, God is eager to forgive, to reconcile, and to restore. Because wokeism doesn't believe in facts or truth, as you know. Wokeism believes in its own concocted narrative, whatever it makes up. Whether or not facts even support it, they go the opposite way. The my truth people, right? Well, this is 2 + 2 is 5. That's my truth. Thank you. What's that math? What's that called? What are they doing now? Common Core math. Yeah, thank you. Was that Bill Gates? Yeah, that's a whole other issue we go on there, guys. But facts and history obviously mean nothing to wokies. They're like intellectual vandals, right? Stealing everything, destroying evidence, history, rewriting history, free speech, and whatever stands in their way of a narrative. Called the happy-go-lucky cancel culture, who attacked all of us for not being perfect like they are. I always say that they should write a book to show how we need to lead better and perfect lives like them, because they obviously have nothing to be ashamed about in their past or even in their present. But God's attitude to a very imperfect humanity is one of forgiveness, and of course, one of love. All right, enough of that. Any golfers out here? Come on. There's got to be some golfers out here. Awesome. If you don't understand this joke, too bad. You'll figure it out later. So Jesus and Moses are going golfing together. They have a game every Monday at a private club. They usually have a foursome. One guy's not going to make it. The other guy says they're running late. So they get up and they're going to tee it off anyway. It's a dog leg around a big lake, okay? But they said, we can cut about 100 yards off this where you go straight for the green. So Moses gets up there, hits the ball. Good drive, but it's not going to make it, lands in the water. But he's Moses, so he parts the lake, walks down there, hits it up close within birdie distance. Jesus, I'm going for it too, yells. Jesus hits it. Better drive than Moses, still not going to make it. Lands, but it stays on top of the water, and Jesus just walks on water. Hits it within 3 feet. It's going to be a tap and birdie for him. Just as they're leaving the green, hey, I'm ready. Turn back. The third party showed up. He hits. He's going for it too. Better drive than both of them. Still not going to make it. Just before it goes in the water, a big turtle shell comes up, knocks it straight up in the air. An eagle grabs it in the talons, drops it in the hole for a hole in one. Moses looks at Jesus, says, I hate playing golf with your dad. So, I thought I'd start the evening by sharing a story. It's going to be my story. I'm an actor. That's all about me. So it's at the end of season 5 on my TV series, Hercules: The Legendary Journeys, which, by the way, was, by season 3 of its 7th run, became the most watched TV show in the world. I know it's a sin of pride, but how many actors can say that? But Hollywood would never give me a star on the Walk of Fame. Anyway, so here was the #1 TV show, the top of my game, living the life I'd always dreamt about living, launching a new movie was coming out. That's by the end of season 5, a new movie I'd done. I was following the footsteps of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Universal Studio was kind of gearing me up to do that, to sort of take over that role. So I feel like I'm a big star. I'm traveling the world. I'm on all the top shows. I'm on Letterman, I'm on Leno, I'm on People Magazine, I'm on ET all the time, you name it. It was great. And then tragedy struck. I had an aneurysm that I didn't know about way up here in my shoulder that kind of blew up and sent hundreds of clots down my arm, but it sent three clots in my brain. I suffered 3 strokes. 3 strikes in my brain. Here I was in my 30s, in unbelievable shape, and all of a sudden, I was out. The full story is in my book, True Strength, my journey from Hercules to mere mortal and how nearly dying saved my life. I got some copies out there by the table if anybody wants to stop by later. But suffice it to say, when I got those strokes, unlike Fetterman, I was benched. I was taken out. For 4 months, I laid on a couch and did as much therapy as I possibly could, learning how to walk again, learning how to balance, learning how to speak, basically function all over again. And after 4 months, I actually flew back down to New Zealand to start filming Hercules again, which was a miracle in itself because I was not doing that well. I was 20 pounds lighter. I was a lot weaker, not only physically, but also mentally. And my heart and my spirit weren't where they should be. But I was lucky, though, because at the end of the 4 months before I went down there, I got married to the love of my life, Sam, right here. She was this relentless voice, chiding me every time that I got down or depressed in any way and feeling sorry for myself and challenging me. And she would look at me and say, "It happened. What are you going to do about it?" So deep down, we are all designed to be warriors by a God who calls us to fight for the truth. So I battled back. It took me 3 years of a lot of struggles, overcoming the near constant nausea I had to deal with, the panic attacks, dizziness, lightning flashes in my eyes. I had this buzzing sound in the back of my brain that lasted 2 hours, 24 hours a day. It drove me absolutely crazy. I had these spinning sensations, falling backwards all the time. It drove me absolutely crazy, and it just made me really, really angry. And I was a lot of fun to be around, for sure. In fact, I told my wife, Sam, that she got the worst part first before the pastor even said for better or for worse. My first day back on the set was met with silence, and it was weird because after 5 years, we laughed every day on that set. We had so much fun. That was my family down in New Zealand for 7 years. Everyone had been warned about what I was going through and be careful and quiet around me because my brain was freaking out. I couldn't really handle a lot of things. I hated that they treated me that way. I hated that they treated me like this fragile China doll. But I was also very grateful. I was grateful to be back at work because, quite frankly, I can't have a show called Hercules without the guy playing Hercules. But it gave me light at the end of a very long and dark tunnel, and it gave me hope. That's what this world needs more than anything. It needs hope. So I worked about 1 hour a day those first few months back, a little bit down from my 12 to 14 hours a day and lifting weights an hour and a half every day from what I had before. But that's all I could handle. It's all my brain could handle. But cautiously, I gained strength and stamina over time. About 2 years in, I started to see really big leaps and bounds of improvement. I started catching glimpses of the old healthy me. I still had lost about 15% of my vision, which I still have today. But other things I regained. The dizziness became less frequent, and migraines abated slowly. I battled all the rest of the way. And with the help of God, because I wrestle with God, you will lose, but I still wrestle with Him. He helped me, Sam helped me, and I won that battle. And I'm telling you the story today because our nation is very, very ill. In fact, we are in a battle, perhaps mortally wounded, but only time will tell. And like my doctors couldn't assure me of recovery those many years ago, I promise you the outcome for our great country cannot happen unless people like you around this country, around this world, work hard and fight the battle. And I guarantee you the fight is going to be worth it. We look around at our culture and we see devastation. We know the damage that's being done, particularly to children. It's crazy what we're doing to our children. 1 mass, 2 mass, all these shots. Are you kidding me? They have the strongest immune system around. The strongest immune system around. This is stupid. We see governments at every single level using their weapon they love the most, and that's fear. They love to fill us with fear. And we can't succumb to that, guys. We cannot. So, ladies and gentlemen, pardon me if I offended you with the wrong pronouns, but ladies and gentlemen, but to quote my wife again, it happened, everyone. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? We're going to fight this evil that denigrates the family, destroys our children, dishonors God the Father. The title of this banquet is Faith, Family, and Freedom. Why? Because you know why? Because we know that it matters. That's why. Faith defines us. Faith is the cornerstone upon which we rely. It orders our world, informs our decisions, and it structures our thoughts. At least I hope it does. Because if you don't feel that way, then you're at the wrong place right now. Maybe the cancel culture is just down another conference room here or something. Family, right? Family is what makes it all worthwhile. I mean, no tombstone ever read, "I wish I spent more time at the office." Nowhere you're going to see that. My wife was my cheerleader and the gentle cattle prod of encouragement when I struggled. Well, it's not so gentle, really. She's kind of a tough Pittsburgh New Yorker, and But today, my 3 kids are my arrows into the future. And Psalm 127:5 is, blessed is the man whose quiver is full. Freedom, authored by Jesus Christ, who died on the cross for us, right? Freedom is the undergirding for the whole structure. You cannot practice your faith, you cannot protect your family without freedom. There's a reason our government closed down churches during COVID. Strip clubs are essential, but church, no, it's not essential. It's unbelievable what they do. Once again, government fears God. You know why they fear God? Because they're not God and they wish they were God. By the way, when I wrote that for the government, it was a lowercase g, just so you know. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to issue you guys all a challenge, a call to action, if you will. We need you to get in the battle, stay in the battle. You know that this nation has an illness. It's cancerous and it's affecting our children, our families, and even our churches. And I remind pastors all the time, you work for God, you do not work for government. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to speak out. We need you in the fight more than anything. I'm here to wake up the lions. That's what I'm here for. The sheep are going to be the sheep. We need voices that are not afraid for the insanity out there. Call out injustice when you see it. Just call it out. Speak it out. I do it all the time. I get so much hate stuff coming through my Twitter account. Facebook took me down a year and a half ago. You know, that was Zuckerberg and his little minion trolls at 3 a.m. come after things I say. The final red flag that got me on Facebook, I was curious about, the flu's been around forever. We've had a vaccine for 79 going on 80 years now. And depending on what site you look at, it says that roughly 50,000 people a year die from the flu in America. So I said, okay, what happened in 2020? So I looked at it, and it said, only 500. So I said, apparently, COVID has cured the flu. Misinformation, red flag, you're off of Facebook. That was the last strike that I got from them. I don't know. So, look, I shifted from Hollywood many years ago to make wholesome films that entertain and uplift. You know? I did movies like What If, God's Not Dead, Soul Surfer, Abel's Field, some wonderful documentaries that speak the truth. Some amazing documentaries. In fact, if you really want to make a difference, let's talk. You can fund one of my films, and I'm serious, because that's the biggest battle we got. It's crazy. Hollywood does these $200 to $300 million movies. It's a $100 million advertising budget to put it out there. We're doing these $3 million movies. That's catering budget in Pirates of the Caribbean. But we do movies that have heart and soul, love and laughter, things that Hollywood will not do. And that's what makes the difference. The difference is we need people like you to help promote those movies. Because God's Not Dead was an anomaly. $2 million movie made $140 million. And that was all word of mouth. All word of mouth. Do not be a wallflower. Do not be silent. Speak up. I'm at a point I don't care what these guys come after me with. Follow me on Twitter, K-Sorbs on Twitter. I do very funny things. One of them, I said, you want to get rid of COVID? You tell the Clintons COVID's got something on them. Does anybody have any conspiracy theories? Mine keep coming true. There you go. You know, when I first got sick, when I really got down and depressed, I was mourning the loss of who I had been. So I knew I'd never be that same person again. But my wife saw recovery in me before I even could. And at her urging, I battled back to full recovery, and I reshaped myself more into the man called me to be, a man of faith, a man of family, and a man of freedom. In fact, I honestly don't know where I would be today without her constant nagging. Her overwhelmingly optimistic attitude. It drove me nuts, but she was a voice for me.
Who was right?
You were. 5 languages, biochemical engineering at Duke. I went to college for sports and meeting women. I'll be honest, I was a completely different reason why we went to college. But I paid back my what I owed to college. I didn't ask you guys to pay it. All right? And I had a double major in business and a minor in drama. I knew what I wanted to do. But you know, you're going to go out and get a degree in 17th century French art and expect to get a job out of that, and I got to pay for your college? It ain't going to happen, guys. It ain't going to happen. But she was my voice. And let me tonight be the voice for you. Yes, we are struggling as a culture, but it's not lost yet. We have not lost this battle. You too can help renew this nation of the bastion of freedom, the culture of family, and the people of faith that we are all called to be by God. We are called to be warriors. We're called to get out there. We're called to harvest, and we're going to keep doing that. I'm going to fall back on a Robert Frost poem. We all know it, The Road Less Traveled. Jesus walked that road. I'm walking that road. I'm inviting you all to walk that road with me tonight and make the road less traveled into a super highway. Let's get this thing going, okay? God bless you. God bless America. My name is Kevin Sorbo. I approve this message. Thank you. My beautiful wife is next.
How do I follow that? Okay, I know. If you believe in 12.5% of the Bible, what does that make you? It makes you an eighth theist. It's a little Common Core math joke. So I like to start my talk with an apology. I'm going to offend you. It's sort of my job these days. I didn't really choose this mission that I'm on. It was chosen for me. But I'm stuck with it because I'm going to try to challenge you to think about education differently. We are all enslaved by the school system. All of us, because why? We went to school. And so what we think about education has been informed and almost only informed by our experience at school. What we were taught defined education by the educators who, I don't need to mention what they're up to these days, but if they turned out what we're witnessing in the schools today, we have to think back on ourselves and what we might have missed out on or might be thinking about wrong. For instance, how many of you in this crowd think that you don't have a math brain? Yep, some people over there. Anybody else? You know, a lot of people very freely will just admit, yeah, I don't have a math brain. That's not me. And how many people think that if you're a math person, you're not really a language arts person, and if you're a language arts person, you're not really a math person, right? Yeah. That's a lie. That's a lie from the pit of hell. That's a lie against God. There is no such thing as a math brain. There isn't. There's no such thing as a French brain. There's no such thing as a chiropractor brain. We all have brains, and they all function roughly the same way. And some people are more interested in different things because they have giftings, God-given giftings. So I want to challenge you to think about education differently. For instance, how many people here support the Second Amendment? Okay, I'm sorry to say this. I don't know how else to couch it, but we've basically lost that. And the reason that I say that we've lost the Second Amendment is because in 10 years, the little boys who are going to school today under zero tolerance policies, who are learning that guns are evil and they should never ever pick up a gun, the little boys who accidentally do this in school or draw a gun or bring in a G.I. Joe gun that's 2 inches long, and they get reprimanded and suspended. And by the way, when they're suspended, who's being punished? the parents, and then the parents say to the child, don't ever go near a gun. You should never go near a gun. You should never look at a gun. You shouldn't, right? Those are the children who will be voting in 10 years. So we are in a dire predicament now, and there's only one way out. But the good news is Gideon whittled the army down to 300, and looks like we're going to start there and hopefully grow it, right? And we can do great things through God. So I want to tell you that you've been lied to by the education system. We've all been lied to our whole lives long. And we've been lied to because our parents were lied to the generation before us, and their parents the generation before them. In fact, today we're living in a largely unparented society. We don't even know how to parent. Many of you in the room accepting, of course, we hold ourselves apart from the culture at large, but I'm speaking about the culture at large, and you are a part of that to a certain degree. And so, for instance, what's the first thing that you learn in school that you have to do if you want to ask a question? And some of you actually do it, right? It's so ingrained in us. You have to raise your hand. But think about that. There's a lesson in there. What does that teach you? And by the way, it's visceral. I embody this lesson. I embody it every time I'm overwhelmed by the urge to ask a question. I have to draw attention to myself. What else does it teach you? You can shout it out. You must ask permission to learn. You have to ask permission. Anything else? You have to ask permission to speak. It does teach you patience. That the teacher knows everything, you know nothing. She's the spigot of information. You need permission to access that. In fact, it's a deterrent. Having to raise your hand to ask a question is a deterrent to asking questions. So really, if you think about it, the first lesson you learn in school is don't ask. And a lot of children learn that lesson. How many of you are reluctant to raise your hands? You can just think about that for a minute. You're reluctant to shout out the answer. So the first lesson that they learn in school is don't ask. What is an education? I mean, we never really ask ourselves. We say we want our kids to get a good education, but we don't really ask what we mean by that. That's just part of the vernacular, get a good education. What do we mean by that? Can we agree that education is perhaps at least a quest for knowledge? What does that start with? Asking questions. And in fact, I would submit to you that education, we ought to be thinking about education as the search for God. Why? Because God created everything. So whatever we learn, we're learning about God. Of course, we don't know that from our schooling because they teach us that God's a fairy tale. The Bible's just a good story. World religions, they're all the same. It's a crutch for weak people. That's a lie. But when you drop your children off at the school door, you're tacitly telling them, Mommy doesn't know. The school knows better than I do. Trust the school. They have authority. So when the child comes home with a lesson from the teacher that conflicts with Mommy's lessons, who wins? The parents have already abdicated their authority. When the child comes home demonstrating against the parent, rebelling, who wins? The school. Because the child learns to rebel against the parents by the parents, telling the child, I don't have the authority, the school has the authority. The second thing you learn in school is failure is bad. Do we have any entrepreneurs in the room? Any small business people? What's your secret to success? Failure, right? Thomas Edison said, I didn't fail 10,000 times, I just found 10,000 ways to not invent a light bulb. But he still invented the light bulb, right? Failure is actually a good thing. In fact, I had a friend who used to come home from school and her father would say, "Where did you fail today?" Because he wanted to celebrate that she tried something that she couldn't do. We ought to celebrate failure. We ought to embody just take that message in and use it on our own kids. Where'd you fail today? I'm so proud of you because you tried. That's awesome, right? But the school teaches us failure's bad. What's the lesson in that? Think about it. What is the lesson in failure is bad? Don't try. Don't ask, don't try. And the last thing, of course, in school, the main question is, teacher, will this be on the exam? What is that? That's because I don't want to learn anything that I don't have to learn to pass the test, just to get through this, to get on to the next level. Really, that lesson is don't think. And that's why we're living in a culture of trust the expert. The culture of trust the expert that we're living in today has been engendered by our schools. And we have to rethink the way we think about education because it's a slippery slope and we're headed the wrong way. So I became a homeschool advocate with my own 3 kids. Now I don't advocate for homeschooling because I don't want it to have anything to do with what they do in school. You know, people say, oh, but what about socialization, right? That's a big question. What about socialization? What makes you think that they're accomplishing socialization in school? Just because you went to school and you consider yourself social? Why do you think you learned it in school? But you do. I was socialized in school. What? Why? Why do you think that? Because you don't have another frame of reference. Maybe if you hadn't gone to school, you would be more social. I don't know, my son, I pulled him out 2nd grade. He has 2.2 million followers on TikTok. I think he's pretty social. In fact, just a quick story, our son Braden, when he was in 1st grade in our little public school, all the 5th graders knew his name. He was like the big man on campus. I don't know how he did it. I was just amazed. I would just stand gape-jawed because, what he was doing in the school. He used to make his own play dates. I had parents come over to the house, get out of the car, and see me and go, oh my gosh, is this okay? I just realized I didn't talk to you. I just talked to your 7-year-old. Socialization doesn't happen in schools. Socialization, the socialism indoctrination happens in schools. So when somebody says to you, what about socialization? You say, I don't want my child to be a socialist. So don't ask, don't try, don't think. The secret to creativity is always to ask, but the child's creativity is shut down inside the school walls. That's why don't even do school with your child. Open the world to them. Encourage them to ask questions. Don't be beholden to one curriculum, and make sure that you dot all the I's and cross all the T's. That's your own insecurity from having gone to school and thinking that they know what they're doing, forcing itself on you and imposing that stricture on your child. It's not necessary. And so that's why I wrote my book. My most recent book is The Playbook for Home Learning. And it's a workbook for the parents. Because I could stand up here all night talking about the other problems in our schools, the other challenges that the schools have basically put in front of you as an adult person. We don't teach our children, as Christians we teach our children virtue, but do you really cognitively teach your child virtue, or do you just hope that they absorb it because they go to church with you? Right? Do you teach your child how to mourn the loss of a loved one? Do you teach your child how to do charitable works? Do you teach your child how to balance a checkbook? Not that we use checkbooks anymore, but you know what I mean. Right? Financial literacy. That's a huge component of being a productive individual in our society. Do you teach your child that they have value? Do you give them chores? A lot of families have stopped giving chores. I think part of the depression that's gone rampant in our youth is they're not given chores to do. And it used to be that when you grew up on the farm or wherever, if you didn't get the chores done, those cows suffered. Those pigs didn't get fed, the baby didn't get the diaper changed or whatever. You were a cog in the wheel. You were a necessary component of that family. And these days, these kids are growing up latchkey, both parents work, they don't have anything, they don't have responsibility, and we wonder why they're so aimless and they don't have any hope. But there's a way out, and that's why I wrote my book. I want to encourage you to share this message with people you know, with young families. I've decided I'm throwing down the gauntlet. I want young families to avoid school. So if it's just kindergarten, keep your child home. If they miss a year of school in kindergarten, what's the big deal? And at the same time, embark a little bit on this journey of education. You're going to, because you're going to feel so compelled that your child's going to fall behind, whatever that means, right? So kindergarten, and then when first grade comes, go, maybe try it for one more year, right? And then second grade is, I don't know, first grade was kind of easy. Let's try second grade. It's more rewarding than you ever imagined. Why? Because it's God's design. The Bible's very clear. And nowhere in the Bible does it say, find a good school for your child. Nowhere. It's very clear. Twice in the Bible it admonishes grandparents to educate the children. And everywhere else it's parents. Teach them my words. Teach them on the way when you walk. Hang them on your doorstep, on your doorpost. Teach them when you go to sleep at night. Parents, teach them diligently. So the good news is that's the freedom mindset. The kids who are being homeschooled today, they understand that they have been given a gift, by and large, and they are understanding the gift that is the nation that we enjoy today. And I believe that home-educated children are going to lead the new revolution. We're going to open it up to questions. I want to thank you all for being so fervent in your faith, for being so devoted to this great task. For such a time as this, and Christ never promised us an easy path. He said, in this life you will have hardship, but be assured, because I have overcome the world. Thank you. What are we doing?
Yeah, I understand we're doing a Q&A, so if anybody's got any questions.
Q&A.
And by the way, it's an old joke. Anybody know where the word politics came from? Poly is Greek for many, and ticks are blood-sucking parasites.
All right. We're going to take a few questions for about maybe 15 minutes.
The scripture teaches that there's no greater calling than to make disciples. And the best way to do that is by the process of teaching and learning. Here's the question. Why is it that so many Christian parents don't understand that? Why?
The answer to that, the answer to that is they went to school. Now, here's the thing. Okay, I understand that to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so my answer to most questions is because they went to school. Most of the problems that we are having in our culture today is because we went to school. And they didn't take religion out of school. Every school is a religious school. Every school is indoctrination. And here's what they did. They said, hey, we shouldn't have religion in school. So let's take the Bible out of school. And the Christian church said, oh, okay. They didn't. They tried to fight it, but they were ineffective. And the Christian community was ineffective at fighting it. So they took the Bible out of school. And they told us, to convince us that this was an okay thing, they told us that education is the 3 R's. Here's another lie, everyone. What are the 3 R's? Are they 3 R's? So we know that it's a lie, but we went along with it because why? Because they're the educators. They're self-appointed elites who have appointed themselves to rule over us, and somehow we go along with it because they've convinced us that they know so much. Well, at this point, we see they know so much that isn't true. But what's happened is they convinced us it's the 3 R's. Now we're scrambling and saying, hey, why are you doing all of this sex agenda in our schools and the CRT and the Common Core and all of this? Why are you doing that? It's supposed to be just the 3 R's. And they're going back to basics and they're saying, it's not the 3 R's, it's indoctrination. Because indoctrination is education. It is putting the doctrine into the child, putting the belief system into the child. And if it's not Christian, it's a different doctrine. And so they just have a different doctrine. But every school is a religious school. And so we bought the lie of the 3 R's, and now we have to get away. And that's why I say education is the 3 F's. And I say this prior to this event. It's the 3 F's: faith, family, and freedom. Why? Faith is who you are and where you're going. Family, sort of how you get there, because you learn your faith in your family. Your family is your relationship. And I will tell you that the parents are the representation of God to the child, so that the relationship that the child has to the parent, when the child grows into an adult, he will transfer that relationship to God the Father. That's why we want to keep our children home with us. And then freedom, you can't have the other two without freedom. So we need freedom in part of that trilogy.
And atheism is certainly a faith. To believe in nothing, wow, that takes a pretty strong faith.
This lady has a question.
My question is this. With Common Core in now, and if we're taking our kids out of school, I'm fighting for that all the time, get them out. But they're changing the college testing so that Common Core kids will be able to pass it, but the kids that are homeschooled won't. What are we going to do about that? I mean, how to...
Okay, so it's such a good question. We have so little faith, right? First of all, why college? Not what college, why college? Secondly, which college, right? A college that is looking at those tests is not a college that you want. It just isn't. It's like we are so enslaved to the school system in this nation. We're so, but I still want, it's like we're the battered wives in the brutalized marriage. But he really loves me. He really loves me. Yes, he beats the crap out of me, but, I'm going to go back to him. So with the Common Core testing, the second thing that I want to say is that many homeschool kids are clever enough to figure that out and work their way around it. For instance, and I actually have some of this in my book, They're Your Kids, because I was seeing this as I took my kids out of school. I was then getting involved in all the Common Core, fighting it and everything. And the lattice, are people familiar with the lattice method for doing multiplication? Well, are we all familiar with the standard algorithm of multiplication? When you put the longer number on top, the shorter number underneath it, then you multiply it ones times ones, ones times tens. Okay, that standard algorithm, that is perfectly logical. It makes sense because our number system is ordered ones, tens, hundreds, right? In Common Core, it's lattice, which means that you make a fourth grader who can't barely draw a circle. He draws a lattice, he writes one number across the top, one number down the side. He multiplies them, draws and it's in a grid, and then he draws diagonal lines across the grid, and if it's 3 times 9 and it's 27, then a 2 goes above the diagonal and a 7 goes below, and then you add up on the diagonal. And yes, it's this complicated and
You're
absurd
losing all of us right now.
to ask a child to do this. But wait, it gets better, because they say to the child, well, go home and ask your dad. And the dad goes, got me. Do the standard algorithm. And the child says, no, daddy, that's wrong.
Common Core engineers. The bridge fell down. I can't figure that out. Why did that happen?
The school forms a wedge
crazy.
between the child and the parent. The school is actually anti-God. It's anti-child. And so this idea, but what about college? It doesn't matter. It's like the battered wife who says, but what about, I love him. It doesn't matter. He's going to beat the crap out of you until he kills you. They're killing children. They're convincing children that they are a different gender. And then they're convinced. I just interviewed Chloe Cole on my program. Chloe is a young woman in California who declared herself to be a male, did the top surgery, suffers tremendously from it, and after less than a year decided that she had made a bad decision. She is now living life as a young woman again. The school was all on board with that. I don't know why you even mess with that. If you have a babysitter, who, by the way, you interview more than you interview your first grade teacher, okay? You have a babysitter, you go home and you discover that the babysitter slapped your child. Does the babysitter get a second chance? Why are we giving these people a second chance at our children?
Another question.
Yes.
Who is it that is responsible for the destruction of so many families?
I mean, one guess I could take is the 1964 Welfare Reform Act by LBJ. And because the black population as a whole had a much lower divorce rate, much lower mother in the house, but for some reason we decided to pass a law telling the black women of the world in America, look, if you have a kid and don't have a man in the house, we'll take care of you. But once you get a man in the house, we'll take care of you. And what has happened 3 generations later, a lot of these black women, by the time they're 24, 25 years old, have 3, 4 kids from 3, 4 different guys. And we've destroyed that. There's 80% of the African-American families raised without a father. And you need both parents, you really do, to help raise a child. And the statistics bear that out with the number of prison sentences and all that. I mean, it's a repeated cycle, and it's really, really sad. And I honestly think the Democrat government was certainly responsible for some of that, what's going on right now. And you know, where do you stop? I mean, LBJ, maybe they thought at the time it was a wonderful thing, but it wasn't a wonderful thing at all. And how many times you see a superstar athlete in the NFL and NBA, no father, but the mother's in the background. And it's a cycle that goes on, and kids need both their parents. They need to have both parents.
We have a question over here.
All right. I just wanted to say I agree with everything that you have said. I'm almost 80 years old, and for at least 50, 60 years, I have been saying school is a communist plot designed to break up families. And I told a teacher that a couple of years ago, and she agreed with me.
Well, there's more out there. I mean, my dad taught 7th and 8th graders for 35 years, math and biology. I mean, he tired 35 years of puberty. I couldn't believe he went through that. But, you know, when I was at school, as many of you here, I didn't have teachers telling me who to vote for, not to believe in God. I didn't have any of those things, even in university. You know, I took business classes, and that's what they taught. So it's crazy how it's moved and turned away from what it used to be. It was always there, but it's not big like it is now.
Yeah, but I won't call it crazy. I really encourage people not to use those words, because it seems like it's not purposeful, and there isn't a plan and stuff
crazy.
like that, right? So stop saying our schools are broken. Stop saying it, because they aren't. They're working exactly as they were
You know what's
planned to
interesting?
work.
People tell her all the time, I could never, ever,
Hold on, I want that to land.
Okay. Well, this is you.
seriously.
I'm speaking for you.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I want that to land.
Okay.
Our schools are not broken. They're working exactly as they were designed to work.
Now it's my turn. This is from Sam. There was so many, especially women, say, "Oh, I could never do it with my kids. It's homeschool. I got too many things going on." What you're saying is that the school system you went through didn't teach you well enough to teach a first grader. What does that say about the school system as a whole? Seriously.
I say this a lot. The core competency of our schools is to teach us how incompetent we are. And I want to encourage you all today, you are more competent than you think you are. You are. How many of you are doing things that you didn't take a class to learn how to do? Look at you, good students raising your hands. I'm kidding. No, that was a joke, totally a joke.
You know, to talk about failure, because you brought that up earlier, right? I used to caddy. I caddied 2 summers at this private country club. Very wealthy guys. I didn't grow up with any money. My dad was a school teacher. Mom stayed on mom. I'm the 4th of 5 kids. But my parents taught me hard work. You know, they taught me, you don't expect handouts. You work out. You do what you can. I had a paper route for 7 years when I was a kid. For 7 years, I got up at 4:30 every morning in Minnesota fricking winters, 20 below, deliver 80 newspapers. But when I got into high school, I bought my first car, it wasn't that beat up, it was actually pretty nice, but a 1967 powder blue Mustang I bought with my own money. And boy, do you take care of those things when you pay it with your own money you worked hard to get. So I'm working at this country club. I'm caddying for these guys 30 to 70 years old. And every one of them asked, how did you get to where you're at? Every one of them said, I failed. Oh, and I failed again. And then I failed again. And I failed again. And I look at my career in Hollywood because one of my best buddies said when I moved out there, remember Sorbs, it's called show business, not show. And I took my double major in business major and I used it to apply myself because I was my own product. So I'm a 13-year overnight success. And I worked my butt off and I learned a lot by a failure, I'll tell you that much. And I tell people all the time, don't let anyone set you limitations, especially yourself.
I've got a question, and I'd like you to both weigh in on this. What does America look like 5 to 10 years from now if we see continued growth of Christian home education and Christian schools?
Well, it looks better than it looks today. I'll say that. We need the Word of God. In fact, I know that you're all aware that they're changing our language, right? They're redefining our words. And for instance, the word proficient. What do you think you have to score on a test to earn earn that word proficient? What would be the bottom of that, do you think? Just shout it out. 70%? Okay, somebody's really lenient over here, 60%. In Ohio, it's 38%. And then they get away with calling that school proficient. Okay? So they're changing our word. What's the definition of a woman? Well, we have a Supreme Court justice who doesn't know. But what you have to understand is that that's an attack on God, because in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
And he said, let there be light, like the movie said. Just to let you know. God bless you guys. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.